Awesome, great. Well, that ends our local ties block. So I'd like to invite all of our filmmakers who are here today for our local ties films to come on stage and have a panel discussion with us. Yes, please give it up for our filmmakers. All right, great. Well, thank you again all so much for being here with us. Why don't we just go down the line and introduce ourselves and the films that you did?
I'm Lori Nussbaum. I was the director and creator of Squirrely Puzzling.
Ray Robison, director of The Private Dance.
Sean Johnson. I directed, wrote, and did most of the practical effects in Eyes in the Dark.
I'm Abby Hall, and I was a liaison between the Klamath Tribe Senate Bill 13 Committee and Wahoo Films for We're Still Here.
I'm Michelle, and director of We Are Still Here.
I'm Henry, creative producer of We're Still Here.
Great, great. Thank you so much. Well, Lori, let's start with you. What was kind of your inspiration behind Squirrely Puzzling? And you're a second-time filmmaker here at KIFF, so
I am, yeah. So I have always enjoyed doing puzzles, and in 2020 I started doing more difficult puzzles. And I didn't just want to put them back in the box, because after you spend so much time working and doing them, I just sort of left them on the table. And in 2020 I did the puzzle, which got into KIFF, and then so I had done some more difficult puzzles, and they were sitting on the table, and I didn't want to put them back. And I was thinking about maybe making another short film, but wanting to do something unique and sort of fun and sort of maybe lighthearted. And I happened to find these little squirrels and sort of put them near that puzzle. And then I was like, oh my goodness, they might be the exact right shape to actually like move the puzzle pieces. And so I did about 20 to 30 pictures just to get sort of proof of concept, if you will. And I sent that animation to a friend of mine, and that friend was just like, you got to make this short film.
that's great. And also, I would like to point out your amazing puzzle outfit today. I mean, just excellent. Ray, yeah, do you want to share a little bit of the story behind?
Well, Kathy Kelly wrote this and she brought it to me. And when I first looked at it, I'd known Kathy for probably over 15 years. And when I read it, I immediately knew this is Kathy. This is Kathy's story. You know, not literal, but I knew the struggles she had gone through in her life. And I knew that this was an idea she had had as a way to release some of the sadness. She was looking for a way to be happy, and so it was really nice having a story other than just a fictional script that's brought to you, but it's basically fictional. But because you know the writer so well, you know so much more of the depth of the story and what it means and where it's going.
Absolutely. Sean, what about you? I know this is a specific kind of style of filmmaking, so we'd love to hear more about that.
So, throughout my movie buff years, I've been a huge fan of samurai films and Hong Kong cinema. And for a while, ever since I started making short films, I've always wanted to make a samurai film and kind of waited on that. And it wasn't until the reassurance of samurais with the game Ghost of Tsushima, and I really loved that game, and it kind of inspired me to get into making my own samurai film. And another big help was being inspired by the works of Akira Kurosawa. That's what the main film look mostly came from. I looked over a lot of how he shot most of his films, how it looked with all the black and white. I tried to make sure I got the look right with the film grain and like the fuzziness of it all. And another big inspiration for all the practical gore effects was a film series called the Lone Wolf and Cub series, which is I highly recommend if you ever want to start getting into samurai films. That is like one of the main series to get into because they go all out with all the gore, how over the top it is, and just my love of that kind of cinema and how they're made is what got me to make the film.
Great, thanks, Sean. Yeah, Abby, why don't you share a bit about your film as well?
First of all, thank you for having us here. It was an honor just to be selected to come. Um, we were a part of Senate Bill 13, which is Tribal History Shared History. And that helps to bring Oregon tribal history into all the schools in Oregon. And so, as an ad hoc committee, our tribe decided that we could tell you our history or we could use the power of film to show you our history. And so we were able to collaborate with Wahoo Films, and we ended up interviewing 15 Klamath tribal elders last summer. And we were able to use their own words to tell the history. And the Klamath tribe really hasn't had their history written in them, related to termination and restoration and other issues. And so we met up with these wonderful storytellers who could show reverence to our history, but amplify our voice and maybe not say, oh, this is how we perceived it, but this is how the Klamath tribes perceive their own history. And so it was a very powerful thing for us as a tribe to be able to do, to share our history and then to launch it on the larger platform of the Oregon Department of Education and to have it go throughout the state. And I think these videos far outpaced the curriculum. Initially it was just to complement the curriculum, and then, the curriculum is there, but the videos have gone so much further than we ever anticipated. And I believe it was through the storytelling of Wahoo that they went so far. So thank you.
Absolutely. Michelle and Henry, do you want to talk a little bit about your storytelling and how it all came to be?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we were also, thank you guys for coming. It means a lot to have an audience too. And we have another film in the 2:30 slot. So I hope to see you there as well. Yeah, difficult subject matter, and a lot of the history had been erased. So we had definitely had to spend time kind of trying to find imagery and research and footage, as well as really make sure that it is from the tribal voices. And so we were really grateful because to capture elder stories while we have them, and also to be able to hopefully glean a little bit more understanding on a topic that I'm sure has sort of been whispered about and talked about, but to have it heard from the tribal voices was really powerful.
Just to add to that, it was a privilege working with Abby, who was a co-producer, I'd say, on the film series. So we produced 3 films. As Michelle mentioned, boarding schools will be playing later today at 2:30. But just hearing all their stories from the elders' voices and how recent it happened. I mean, we're talking the 1950s, 1960s with the restoration, but without their former land base. And so they're still fighting to restore those rights and increase their land base here in Klamath. And just the resilience of the people and to hear firsthand from the elders. And I thought that was just a privilege to just hear their voices and the experiences they went through in their recent history. And it's just nice to know that they're still here.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much for bringing up the recentness of the history too, because that is really kind of one of the shocking parts of it, and that you just realize how quickly this all happened. And in addition, the resiliency, and I know we chatted a little bit about the intergenerational trauma, and we've also discussed that yesterday on our panel as well. But yeah, the resiliency of the tribes. And I'd also like to mention that our mics are open for anyone in the audience who does have a question, would like to come up and ask any of our wonderful filmmakers up here. But Sean, so when I'm watching this film, and it's just so wonderful because it isn't something that I'm as familiar with, and so I just love how did you get the choreography down with, and are those aren't real swords, right?
No.
Okay.
No. You can rest assured they're fake.
So they're like plastic or wooden, but so you're choreographed that, and then how'd you kind of direct those whole scenes with the samurai and the action?
So before our actual film day, we filmed in Moore Park for 2 days. We did first day we did all the choreographed fight scenes and the practical effects all done in one day because we wanted to get all that crazy stuff done first so that it's over with, and then all we had was just some shots with one of our other actors that couldn't make it that day, but it meshed with the film well. As for the choreography, we picked a day to get everyone who's involved with the film to come to my house, and we basically just went in the backyard. I bought some practice swords for the occasion so that we're not wrecking the props before we actually have to shoot. They're like these wooden swords, and I just ran through the scene that was in my head, and make sure everyone was all on board, and did that step by step. And what I like to do when something is choreographed or planned out is uh, basically shoot a rough draft of the scene on my phone, like so that once actual filming starts, I have the rough draft on my phone and I can look at it and know which angles, what shots I want, so that I'm not standing around just tapping my foot and just like stroking my chin, wondering what shot I want um, this specific scene needs, and so that way I'm prepared. Um, the practical effects, I was surprised how well it went, because usually when you work with practical effects, there's always something going wrong. But luckily, there wasn't any problems. After we shot most of the fight scenes, we took the second half of the day to um, film all the practical effects so that we can just focus on one thing. So I had most of my crew help with like triggering the what I used was like a garden spray you can get at like Harbor Freight, and attached a um, a hose to it so that once you hit the trigger, it'll just like spray. The amount of times you just pump that with air. But it all went well. It all went pretty well. And as for the swords, they're actually high density foam. They're like LARPing swords that I wanted to find the most realistic looking swords I could find. I didn't want them to look bulky and like show like they're like made of foam. I wanted them to look good on camera, and I was happy with how they looked, because once the sun was shining on the reflectiveness, it really sold the look, and yeah, they were a good buy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, speaking of choreography, Ray, I mean, can't talk about the private dance without the scene. So how did that go? How did the location go for that? That's Sugarman's Corner in Klamath Falls, and kind
It
of
is.
yeah.
Just
So
like a block that way and a block that way kind of thing. Actually, we started shooting this before the pandemic. I think it was probably the fall of 2019, if my years all blend together. But we shot all the flashback scenes, and then with the idea that we would reconvene the next spring to finish shooting. But then COVID happened, and so it continually got postponed. We finally shot last fall. Was it that long ago? No. Could it be? Wow.
was it last fall, Kurt?
August. Wow. It's amazing. So we finally did finish it off there. But, one of the difficulties, of course, was how do we shoot this scene of a woman dancing naked in the middle of a street at night and not get arrested? And of course, I knew the history that Klamath Falls has as being so film friendly. And of course, there's a film called Phoenix, Oregon, and where was it shot? Klamath Falls, Oregon, right? So started working with the people from Klamath Films. Kurt helped out so much to find locations and get permission to do that. So we did get the okay to block off the streets, and certainly that was an adventure. But really, it went well. We, it was challenging, but it certainly did go well. The choreography was really mostly Stephanie, the dancer. She found some basic moves and repeated them over and over. So it wasn't as though we were trying to create some continuous dance throughout that. I wanted to edit it so that it did seem disjointed, because the whole thing was not supposed to be come across as a continuous period of time, but in her head it was just movement and joy that was occurring and growing in that movement. So so really the choreography was all her, I believe. So I'm trying to think of forgetting to credit anyone else for helping to get that choreographed. There's certainly so many details that happened. So we did that, and she did it to music, and we were playing it off of somebody's phone who was hiding underneath the car with, and we restart it every time.
Yep.
Okay, take, and then I go, okay, let me cue this up again and play it again. So certainly very involved, but the team was just incredible that put all that together. Jason McMurray over there, he was part of that. I think is Kat here? Oh, I thought she was going to be here. And Tamara Barris, who is her character name in the script is the office hen, who's picking on her at the beginning
So
of
mean.
the office.
So
Yeah, she's
mean.
so not like her at all. I've known Tamara for probably a couple decades. No, I don't know. 2007, we did our first film festival together. Went down to LA and premiered a film down there. So great to be at another film festival with Tamara. So, but the number of people that there are that help collaborate and create something like this is just mind-boggling, and it just feels so fortunate to have those people to work with and to have it shown here by Klamath Film. The Klamath Independent Film Festival has been so good to have here. I'm so glad that we have that.
Well, thank you. We're so thankful for all the filmmakers here, and obviously it wouldn't happen without y'all in the audience. And thank you all so much for supporting that. But I wanted to ask also, I mean, this was adapted from a short story. So is there anything, and this is also for all the filmmakers, what do you hope people take away from the film? I mean, what's kind of the big takeaway from The Private Dancer, from, just the film in general?
Okay. Well, I think what is in The Private Dance, the message, is really something that all of us can relate to, because we all have so many struggles in our life that affect us emotionally. And it isn't as though Marla, the main character, has something definitely wrong with her. It's just life's difficult, and dealing with it is difficult. And we all, I think, look for some way to release the stress that happens in our own lives. And sometimes it means doing something totally out of character that you wouldn't do normally. And doing something like that can offer a great deal of release in your life when you say, a swear word, and then, you do something that you wouldn't normally do.
Cathartic.
And I think that's just advice for everybody to, sometimes just let it go and just do something that makes you happy without concern of everyone else, and realize that you're going to get back in the car and your life's going to go on and it's going to get crappy again. But every once in a while, it's okay to do something that you could get arrested for, but you don't care.
For the kids in the audience, don't get arrested after this.
Yeah.
That was not Klamath Film's official stance on that. Lori, what about you? It's Squirrely Puzzling.
Yeah. Well, being a stop motion, I mean, it takes a lot of patience, a few thousand pictures, and a lot of persistence. Just doing small, minute, very, detail oriented. And so I guess sort of just the message on just the process of making it is just a lot of hard work, even if it's challenging. Just continue to go at it, bit by bit, and eventually you'll get, finish, and then you'll be able to see like the project or whatever it was finished, and it'll be like really achieving. But the underlying sort of message with the film, I mean, it's playful and lighthearted, but each squirrel, if you really watch it, they sort of have unique personalities, or at least I feel like they do. But I also spent a lot of hours with them. Yeah, alone with my squirrels and the jigsaw puzzle from the little flower pot shop, and but yeah, but it also shows, sort of the story of these squirrels finding a jigsaw puzzle, but then working together, even if they're unique and different, coming together, working together, and just showing kindness on that. Even when the one squirrel is a little ornery and deciding to steal the piece and potentially might not even be able to finish the puzzle. And so that was a fun little chase scene that I threw in there that gives a little drama into it. And then, the squirrel finally comes back, even though it's trying to give another piece, a jigsaw piece, like, hey, I don't want to give that one, but like, what about these others? But yeah, just so I think those are sort of the underlining message, and just maybe don't take life too serious.
Yeah. And Sean, if there's any final thoughts you have on your film or the underlying message or, anything you'd like to share?
Well, I mean, it's not really a message. I mean, it's mostly just a film. Just I wanted to make with my buddies, and if that, I mean, if that's what I can do in life for a living, that'd be a dream come true. But I guess like with my film, it was to drive a lot more interest in samurai cinema, and just there's a lot of great films out there, film series. One thing I forgot to mention when we were asking about influences, uh, writer Kan Shimasawa, he was the one that wrote the original short story. Um, uh, Basically, it was, I forgot the story, but it was about blind swordsman. And his one short story is inspired filmmakers to make a whole bunch of films about like a blind swordsman. If you're familiar with Zatoichi, the blind swordsman, they're all the whole series. That's like a series of like 26 films, all based on the short story. And that short story also made different iterations of the blind swordsman. There's one recently called the Swordsman that was made in uh, Korea. There's one, if you're familiar with Rutger Hauer's work, Blind Fury. He played Blind Swordsman, basically the American remake of Zatoichi. But yeah, just to like get into like samurai cinema, because there's so many great action pieces in like places like Japan and also in Hong Kong, because they make some great stuff. And also the camera I used, um, it was a 4K camera. It's called a DJI Pocket 2. It's a little gimbaled camera. Um, I wanted to push the envelope on that, on how what you can do, because it's usually used as like a traveling camera, and I wanted to show people you can make great stuff with like a GoPro or even a cell phone. But because most cell phones shoot in 4K, but yeah, that's kind of about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so thankful to have Southern Oregon's premier samurai cinematographer with us here at the film festival. So we really appreciate it, Sean. Um,
Pleasure.
but Michelle and Henry, yeah, we'd love to hear more. I know we haven't gotten to hear too much from y'all, so please share your final thoughts on your film. And I also wanted to reiterate Abby's work on getting the bill passed and being able to share the story in the schools through filmmaking. It's really a remarkable thing that y'all are doing, and yeah, pushing the envelope.
It was sweet. The other, my daughter came home from middle school and said, "Oh, Mom, I got to tell you about the boarding schools." And I was like, "Oh, I was a part of that."
Oh
Yeah,
my
gosh, it was really neat. And I loved how modern your ending was. It was really such a great ending. So I'm gonna let Henry take this one.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway is from the title itself of the film that the Klamath tribes are still here, and that they're resilient people, and that they're still persevering to restore their ancestral homeland. And another point I think that the Klamath tribes would really like to get across are that they are modern day people. I mean, they are engineers, scientists, doctors, government officials. They have their council, and they're still working to get their culture and their language across.
Absolutely. Well, we're so thankful for y'all for traveling down to our film festival today and for everyone here being a part of our panel. If there's no more questions, let's give one big round of applause for our local ties block. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you. All right, and we'll resume at 1 o'clock with our next block. So please be sure to get some more donuts if there's any left, some cold brew, and we'll be back in the theater at 1. Thank you.